Well, thanks for coming out. We're thrilled to be here. It's always great to be back at Ramp Up, too. They throw a great event, but always nice to see old friends make new ones and get to talk about these topics for multiple days. It's really exciting and fun. So we've got a great session planned, and I'm joined by my friends Derek and Kelly. So we're going to talk about data collaboration. And this is a big topic. I've been talking about it all day and at this event. And if you think about what's changing in marketing, the exogenous factors, right, in the economy and everything, what we've come to learn and accept, I think, and can agree on is that data is critical to our businesses. The ability to collect it, to manage it, to apply it, make it actionable for insights, for activation, for measurement, the efficacy of our work is mission critical now, and it can really make or break your business. And it's not just something even that I'm possibly overexcited about. Interestingly, this is great timing because Forrester Consulting, and I work for Forrester Research, our consulting group just worked with LiveRamp to finish a new study about data collaboration. And some of the outputs of that are super fascinating and timely. They found that, and I want to make sure I get this right, 93% of the respondents to that study said that improved data collaboration is critical to increasing revenue for an organization. And 9 out of 10 of the respondents said that data collaboration is important and critical to achieving their top goals, right? So this is clearly top of mind and also anticipated to be extremely impactful. So I think we can agree on the potential impact and that this is important. But really, where does the rubber hit the road? And that's what I think we want to get into in this session is, practically speaking, how does it work, right? It takes management, planning, resources to do this well and to make it a reality. And so I'm joined by Derek and Kelly. I'm going to have you two introduce yourselves real quickly, and then we're going to dive into the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Derek Jeanneret, Associate Director of Digital Lab Measurement, which is our kind of our group tasked with digital transformation within AbbVie. We have been utilizing Safe Haven Clean Rooms since 2021, so we've had quite a journey. I think we've evolved a lot. So interested to kind of get into the details, tell you guys about how that's gone. We have, we started with a handful of people. I think we have over 100 distinct users working in Safe Haven now between our data engineers, analysts, data scientists. So.
Hi everybody, I'm Kelly Jones. I work for Whirlpool Corporation. I lead our online direct-to-consumer business, specifically for KitchenAid small appliances. So stand mixers, espresso machines, blenders, food choppers, let me know what you need and we'll give you the hookup. We've been on a journey at Whirlpool as well. I'm really excited to sit with Derek today because we actually have very different points of maturity in our journey. So, Derek's been doing this for 4 years, has 100 people. We've been doing this for about 6 months. And we're very much in our early pilot phases of learning more about clean rooms and data collaboration and building up the capabilities to do so. So yeah, I think it'll be a great discussion today to talk about the dynamics.
A great range of perspectives, and you two can do this, right? If we can do it up here, this is great. I want to start with, actually from the very beginning, what motivated your organizations to pursue data collaboration in this way? What was the seed of the idea or the motivating factor? Derek, let's start with you.
Yeah, so traditionally the way AbbVie had been sort of executing and measuring consumer marketing was full reliance on vendors. So, great partners, great, agency partners, they would sort of create audiences for us based on requirements that we would give them, but they would own the audience creation, they would own activation, they would own measurement. So, there's an aspect of grading your own homework there that I think we wanted to sort of understand better the details. What the nuance, the underlying data, get a little bit more ownership and try to bring a little bit more of our expertise, what we know about our patients to drive more effective execution.
And how did this start out at Whirlpool?
Yeah, so for Whirlpool, a couple different angles we took when we kind of went down this path. One of our big values at Whirlpool is to be passionate for our consumer and our customer. And so we actually started down this path of looking at our own first-party data and saying, what do we do with this data? Like, this is really good data. A lot of it comes in through product registrations, through warranties and service claims, but it's actually still really solid customer data. And plus, right before the pandemic, we had this great opportunity of looking at e-commerce and direct-to-consumer as a new channel that we could stand up for Whirlpool brands. And so when you combine the power of first-party data, the fact that Whirlpool is the only company that only sells appliances, right? There's a lot of companies that also sell appliances, but Whirlpool is the only one that only sells them. So if you think about your customer journey when you're shopping for a washer, or dryer, or stand mixer, it's a very stressful journey sometimes, especially if your washer just broke down and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm in duress. Where do I go? What do I buy? What have I had? So, how do we help our consumers through this journey, and how do we help them find the right thing? And we're the experts. We know better, or we should know better than any other brand or company. So that was really the beginning of this idea of, how do we better get insights out of this customer data? How do we use this to create better experiences for our consumers? And how do we actually use this to also inform product development, product innovation, how consumers are using our products? So there's a lot of avenues that we kind of looked at, and where we landed was we said, let's prioritize direct-to-consumer. Let's not go e-commerce, right? Like, let's not go across multiple marketplaces. Let's own the customer experience. Let's own the customer data and make sure that we're tapping into these insights in a way that we can deliver the right experience and the right message and the right content. So we're really excited about what we've seen so far, about what we're learning, about the insights we're gaining, but it's still very much the beginning for us.
So, Kelly, how has it evolved, even in the short time that you've been working on this? And what are the outputs? How do you actually apply data collaboration? What kind of use cases or applications of it have you found? What have you reached today?
So we started, looking at D2C as a starting point. We looked at it from two angles. One is, again, we have a great customer database. How do we further increase the addressable reach of this customer data? We're prioritizing emails, right? We send a lot of emails to our customers. That's the best avenue to reach them historically. And so the first kind of foundational use case has been, how do we increase the addressable reach of our own customer data? How do we reach more of them across more channels? What channels do they prefer to be reached on? Maybe it's not email. Maybe it's certain social channels. Maybe it's direct mail. Maybe it's SMS. So how do we find them? How do we reach them? How do we connect with them in the right place? And then the second one is about incrementality. So because we are a newer sort of sales channel for a 150-year-old company, we historically have sold through retailers and Best Buy and Home Depot and Lowe's. So how do we stand up this new channel without actually hurting our retailers? And so we said, our mission is to find incremental audiences, not to steal audiences that are already buying or already loyal to our retailers, but how do we find new ones, people who have not yet purchased KitchenAid products or have not yet understood the value of them. So we're also trying to understand, how do we find lookalikes of our existing customers? How do we partner with new data providers that can help us find customers who are buying other very expensive things, where maybe instead of buying a Louis Vuitton bag, they'll buy a $2,000 espresso machine. So we really want to figure out who to partner with that can help us learn more about our consumers' shopping habits, their spending behaviors, and tap into that to kind of convince them to shop more of that with us.
Sounds almost like this gift that keeps on giving. As the more you use it, the more you discover ways to use it and expand.
Yeah, think about it, and historically you're just targeting audiences based off of demographics or behaviors they're taking across different publishers, and you're hoping that it's working. And now in theory, we can find our exact customers where they are and meet them with the right message, and not send them multiple messages about multiple products or multiple categories. Send them, if you already own a stand mixer, we're not going to waste our money on stand mixer ads to you. We're going to start selling you on attachments and accessories and other ways you can use your stand mixer.
It's an amazing concept. I love it.
Yeah,
AbbVie.
Sorry, that was really loud. That concept of incrementality, though, is kind of core to what we were looking to do with the clean room as well. Moving from sort of an annual marketing mix understanding of how my channels are performing to how do I, within a tactic, begin to really evolve my execution? How do I take that to the next level? And by owning our own audiences and activating via the clean room, we can really lean into sort of a test and learn approach to digital transformation. We can create audiences, hold out control groups, and really read incrementality. Did this work or not? These two audiences are functionally the same. The only thing that is different is this intervention. Did it drive statistically significant growth? And that has been a game changer for us.
Yeah. Yeah, we also very much have relied on mixed media models, to historically tell us how our dollars are doing. But again, in our world, every dollar that we spend has to yield a return within a certain attribution window. It's not about long-term gains. So we have to kind of get closer to that point of incrementality to understand where to put our dollars tomorrow versus 6 months from now.
Yeah, and our customer journeys are really long too.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be 2 years between, diagnosis and treatment. So really understanding, where these patients would have, kind of already followed that journey to where, maybe we were able to provide, the right information at the right time to help them make a choice, is very transformative for us.
Yeah.
Well, this is an investment for your organizations, even changing some of the way you work and the information that's available. Obviously, everyone's under a lot of pressure, right, to be efficient, to use resources wisely, and even less of them where possible. How do you measure success of the data collaboration initiative and efforts? How do you know if it's working, and where is the win been for you?
So as I was saying, the ability to actually measure incrementality gives us the vehicle we need to kind of justify the spend, right? We can say, hey, we think, we've got a hypothesis. We think in-housing, audience creation, bringing in a data science team, building out some advanced statistical models and creating, audiences that we can react to faster is a win, and we can test it out. We can, if we don't want to invest in a large team at first, you can, bring in sort of contracted resources and kind of do it efficiently, prove out the use case, and then grow the team from there. Say, hey, look, this is really working. That gives us a sort of competitive advantage now, where instead of buying off-the-shelf audiences that kind of everybody else is using, we can get more personalized. We can react to the data that we have, that we know about our patients, and we can be more relevant.
Yeah, and for us, a lot of the success metrics that we look at, and a little bit of how we were able to even go down this journey in the first place started with actually media dollar efficiencies. So again, I'm not the brand marketing team, right? I'm not driving all the equity campaigns around KitchenAid brand and Stand Mixer. I'm the direct-to-consumer business, right? I need to make sure I'm driving revenue every single day, and those investments are efficient and driving that for us. And so what we started with was looking at, yes, one, are we increasing the addressable reach of our customers? And actually, yes, we are. 5 times more reach than we were historically. Are we reaching them more efficiently? Are we, able to reach more people by spending less? Are we able to reach them in more quality? Are we driving now more quality traffic to our website? Because again, now we're talking to our own customers. We're talking to lookalikes of our customers. So are we improving click-through rates? Are we improving conversion rates as they're coming into the site? So those are all sort of like the early metrics that we're looking at as early indicators. But then, as we lean more into like the true value of this being CLTV and retention, how many new leads are we bringing in? Because we're finding more, again, lookalikes of our existing customers. So we should, in theory, be seeing a lot more new leads and new customers coming in. What's the quality of those leads? And then retention is another big one for us. So we do measure audience retention. We measure revenue recurrency. So of our existing customers, how much are they buying from us again and again? How often are they buying? So these are all the metrics that we're kind of looking at to understand the value of the investments that we're putting behind this. And is it making our media more efficient? And is it bringing better quality customers to our business?
So you went into it with a plan, some anticipated benefits, and a way to measure this. And any surprises, either unanticipated type benefits or planned metrics that went in maybe a different direction or a different way than you anticipated? What surprises did you get?
Yeah, I think one of our big surprises was we went into it primarily as a measurement sort of approach, right? That was our big sort of problem we wanted to solve. We wanted to get our hands around the measurement. We wanted to understand what was happening, and we did accomplish that. I think, you know, some of the really big wins there were, you know, again, moving from a marketing mix approach to a more granular tactic level, you know, ability to read impact. What we started doing was testing a lot of like omni-channel execution versus multi-channel versus single channel. Like what's working? Is it, if I take an audience and I activate it just in programmatic display, is that effective? Is it more effective if I couple that across all my channels? Or am I really just over-indexing on frequency and not expanding my reach sufficiently? Is there a couple of channels that tend to work better together? Is it programmatic, you know, display, online video, and search? If I go in those 3 channels, does that seem to be the right mix and both get me the frequency I'm looking for as well as expanding reach across multiple tactics? So that was a big one. But I think the biggest surprise for us was how well in-housing or upscaling our data science capability was going to drive impact. So developing and in-housing audience creation was not something I think we initially set out to do, but that really became a big success story for us. Being able to create our own very advanced propensity uplift cluster modeling, our own segmentations, applying that to, you know, our own versions of lookalike modeling, utilizing LiveRamp's sort of in-house lookalike tool, but also kind of building on that, enhancing that data spine with some of our own first-party data. That's been a big win for us, and that utilization of advanced data science and audience creation has been, you know, a big sort of surprise win.
So I came to this conference last year. It was my first time coming here, and it was, I'm sure like all of you are experiencing, extremely inspiring and motivating, and oh my God, why aren't we already doing this? And this is something as marketers and advertisers we've probably been thinking about for years in terms of how do we get closer to consumers. And so I was so excited that, you know, we were moving this along and bringing it into the business. But it's really hard. It's complicated. I think what was most surprising to me was I thought, oh, we'll just tap into our audience database, plug it into our media channels, and like see this magical thing start to appear of, you know, who our customers are, where they are. And it's not easy. You have to really, you know, there's a lot of change management that goes into this, both internally and externally. Our agencies are very set in their ways. They're very experienced in how we traditionally go to market, optimize channels, look at channel KPIs, look at individual publishers, you know, and we were really having to force them to even think differently. And, you know, we have to, internally it's very complex. Whirlpool has been building physical products for 150 years, not digital technology. We have a lot of work to do to kind of really also look internally and understand what does it look like to set ourselves up to actually move into this new world of digital technology and automation. We're very much making those movements and making those investments, but it's a lot more complex than I anticipated. And I guess that's surprising and not surprising when it comes to things like this. But it's still something very much that is something we have to do, right? If we're not making this move now, we're going to continue to fall behind.
It does take work, and change management is critical, of course. It feels like, you know, if it's not hard, you know, you're not doing it right. Mm-hmm. You don't want to go to all this trouble, you know, do all this work just to recreate, I think, an existing wheel.
Yes.
And do the existing things just slightly differently. I mean, I think you should look at this, and the way to get the maximum return on this investment is to be able to push forward, to use the data differently, to expand the scope of how it's used, like into the data science and modeling and measurement. So, you know, I think maybe not every day you feel like this is great and perfect, this is hard, but I think that means you're doing it right. That's a great segue also into my next question about who's involved, the stakeholders. You know, it takes a village to get all of this done, right? You've both implied this. So what stakeholders have been involved in this for you? And how do you work with them, starting from how do you even get them on board? right? Some of them may not even known this was coming initially, right, or hadn't thought of it themselves. How do you get them on board? Who are they, and how do you keep them involved and supportive of all this work, and even the innovation facets that you're working through?
Yeah, so for us, it really started at the top, honestly. Because we're a D2C business and we're newer as a business to Whirlpool, there's a lot of ambition behind how we continue to grow as a business. And we are very much in growth mode. So we're almost like a startup within a large corporation. And so with that, with the fact that we have really aggressive growth objectives, we have to maintain efficiencies with our spend. Every spend we put into market, we expect to be able to reinvest so we can continue to grow. That's the angle that I kind of took, honestly, when I brought this to the business and to the corporation to say, we have this opportunity to grow this business. We don't know much about how to find new audiences. We have this incredible database of customer data. And we are making investments in cleansing that data and connecting it more across Whirlpool properties and brands and systems. So we're making a lot of investments in aggregating our own data, creating a customer 360 view of our data. And so both from the angle of, all right, we're about to embark on growing a business, and from the angle of we're investing already in cleaning and combining all of our data internally. How do we now activate that data? How do we make the most of those investments? So it started with really within the KitchenAid small appliance business, convincing, ultimately the CEO of KitchenAid to make this investment as a proof of concept. That's really how we're starting this out. For growing D2C, finding incremental audiences, activating against our first-party data, and we're keeping all of the other stakeholders close. So we're having conversations with our regional counterparts. We're keeping our other brands and businesses close. They're all, staying very connected to what this is, how it's going, what investments we need to make internally. But we decided to start small from that perspective of starting with KitchenAid D2C in the US. And we expect, this to become across the entire funnel, across multiple brands, businesses. But it's been easier, let's say, to kind of start small and expand from that perspective.
How do you share, if you started with the one group, right, and so that's the POC, it'll grow out from there. How do you share the insights, the results with the groups that you want to move in the future? How do you keep them informed and get them on board for the next stage of expansion?
So we have monthly leadership touch bases with that ladder up, right? So we are every month kind of reporting very high level progress updates, the KPIs, the improvements that we're seeing. But then we also have, the counterparts and all the other businesses and brands that are running media. And so they're wanting to kind of get more in depth around, what we're seeing at a media level. So it's kind of across both sides of spawning out across our peers and about our other businesses, but making sure we're keeping leadership extremely close and extremely bought into this. And then from there, they're kind of making the connection to say, hey, let's go inform this other leader, and let's go talk to this other region, and let's bring this to the board, essentially, to make sure that we're keeping this holistic across the organization.
Yeah, I think for us, as far as stakeholders, a lot of this came top down for us. There was one, the entire AbbVie digital lab, right, with this incubator for digital transformation came out of an idea of a white paper from one of our senior executives that said, hey, pharma is traditionally fairly conservative, fairly slow to adapt new technologies. Like, we need to be on the cutting edge. And so there was a strong push from leadership to invest in moving forward AbbVie, making digital part of our DNA is kind of what we adopted as a slogan. So we actually created a whole bunch of small, what we called 2 pizza teams. So it was a small team that you could feed with 2 pizzas. And
let me write that down.
And these teams, you would have, one representative from brand marketing, one representative from our internal business technology group, a data engineer, an analyst, a data scientist, and an omni-channel strategist. So our digital strategy group, who was kind of leading that team. And then we would bring in cross-functional, team members as needed, but we would then go through the use cases. So we would kind of brainstorm together. We would get direction from the different brand marketing groups around what were their pain points, What are they struggling to achieve from a digital marketing perspective? And then we would try to figure out, okay, how do we take, advanced data science, analytics, data in general, and solve these business problems? And so these teams would get together and they would run these use cases, and we would come up with, the what we called an MVP, which those of you who have experienced in agile development know, it's a minimum viable product. And so you had a number of weeks to get to just a minimum viable product. Can we do this thing? Does it work? And then we would try to execute on those, and we would, because that brand marketer was on that team meeting with us every week as we would develop these solutions and execute and test and measure, we brought them along the whole way. They were involved from start to finish. They watched the whole thing evolve. They really, got behind it. And I think from a stakeholder perspective, that really bought us a lot of credibility with the brand, because they would, they learned a lot more about the data. They learned about the process, how these things were being built, the complications, but also how we were kind of, addressing some of these challenges. And that built a lot of trust, and that got us, pretty far along in stakeholder buy-in, I guess, for this approach.
Excellent. Look, we could sit here and talk for like 3 or 4 hours. I think you guys will be on board with that too. But there is an agenda that we have to get to. So this was fascinating. And again, I'm sad that we have to get off stage now, but we'll be around. So we'd love to talk more with you about it. In terms of takeaways, kind of what I took away from this, and I'm thinking about now, is one, upfront understanding those use cases, and also sort of understanding that you don't have to boil the ocean up front. You can start with like the POC concept, or working with specific groups, and use this at a launching off point, expand from there. To the importance of governance, change management, working with the right teams, and finally thinking about the metrics of success, which you're committing to up front, and also the openness to think about these unintended benefits and start measuring and managing to those as you expand out the use.
Oh yeah, we didn't even get into data governance.
Yeah.
We have a whole
That's a separate
team that we've built out. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know.
We could talk about this all day.
We certainly could. Well, thank you for attending, and we hope you enjoy the rest of Ramp Up. Thank you again.